Hello everybody and welcome to another video. In this video we're going to be talking about why there's so much hate directed at Games Workshop online, and is it justified or is there another reason for it? Yes, that is right. I've been watching a lot of YouTube to make this video and looking at more the content creating and at the negative side of the sort of hobby content, and sort of try to work out why does Games Workshop get so much hate. And I think the easiest way to do this is to kind of break it down into two parts. First, we'll look at the reason why non-content creators hate Games Workshop, or an element of them, and why content creators make content aimed in a negative way at Games Workshop. So we're going to sort of frame it in that way, and we're going to look at it that way. I think that would be a lot easier. Now, this video was heavily inspired by Beard over at Tabletop Tactics, who kind of try to sort of address this, but kind of turned the video into more of a history video of Games Workshop, and then kind of loosely touched on the hate. But I'm just going to ignore the history of Games Workshop. If you want to go and watch the history, go and check out Tabletop Tactics and scroll through their videos and you'll find it. This video is mainly to talk about the negativity, and there's a lot of it. And I think it's this last few years, it's kind of really sort of ramped up. And I think there's a reason for this. And I think it's kind of partly content creators' fault, and then disgruntled fans, I was going to call them. We're going to talk about the disgruntled fans first. But first things first, I am a Games Workshop shill. It has been confirmed. It was in my YouTube comment section, so therefore I am a shill. And once this video is over, I will be contacting my corporate overlords for my free plastic crack and my support bundle. But no, in all seriousness, I generally try to stay as positive as I can. And I do enjoy Games Workshop products, their games, their IPs. Yes, so if I come across as a GW shill, then I don't care. So there, right, having that one. So yes, the negativity. So what I think, first thing, we're going to address the non-content creators. Why are they negative? Well, it's probably two things really. First one is probably the price. Games Workshop is expensive. Let's not lie. Let's not beat around the bush here. Games Workshop's kits are expensive. And that can piss people off. And it can piss people off. But I would say in recent years, Games Workshop have been very clever and tactful with their price rises. Like, they had the inflation one at the beginning of the year, and most plastic kits only went up about £1.50, which wasn't too bad. Their paints, and other stuff, and their accessibility to certain hobby products are really good. But their kits can be expensive. But if you shop smart, that's generally not a problem, because you can go to an online retailer, you can go to your local hobby store and stuff, and generally get a 15 to 20% discount on most of your hobby products. Or you can hit the trade sites and pick up some secondhand stuff. So there are ways and means of doing the hobby without shopping directly at Games Workshop. Therefore, you can make yourself cheaper. But the angry minority will always hit people with Games Workshop's expensive, and they're taking the piss with the price. And I will say that, yes, it can be expensive, but on the flip side, it's a luxury product. It's a hobby. Hobbies aren't meant to be cheap. Like, I really would love to get into jet skiing, but I can't afford one. But I don't criticize jet ski companies because, they're really expensive. I just don't do that hobby. I do a hobby that I know I can afford to do, and I do my hobby within my means. I don't push beyond that, and I try to be sensible with my money. And if I if I want a large kit that is expensive, then rather than getting it right now, I will save to get that kit. So I'm not really, when someone says Games Workshop's expensive, I generally sort of think, okay, fine, yes it is, but is there any need to hate on it? Other times I think there is other sort of elements of it, of why they hate on Games Workshop. And I think this is sort of partly down to Games Workshop's the number one company in the industry. They're the big kahunas, and it's cool to hate on the big guys. And I think some of these people may necessarily hate Games Workshop or have a dislike towards Games Workshop because of their supposed business practices. And we're going to address that when we talk about the content creators, because there's one particular content creator we're going to focus on. That wasn't intended when I originally started this video. It's kind of just turned into that. But we will look at that content creator and the kind of things that these people say, which I think reinforces this view that some of these people have, that their business practices are bad. I don't think they're necessarily predatory. I don't think they're anything worse than what other corporations are out there like. You know, Games Workshop doesn't really advertise in the mainstream media. You don't really see adverts for toy soldiers on your TV. You're really only seeing it through content creators, influencers, hobby magazines and stuff like that. It's not, they're not really pushing their product in everyone's face like you do with things like, you know, phones and other stuff. Especially at this time of the year, it's Christmas, you know, like during the day when kids are not at school, there's loads of adverts there for deliberately aimed at kids. And Games Workshop don't really do that. And they potentially could if they really wanted to, but they don't. So their business practices, yeah, okay, we'll get in more into it later. Other people sort of always ping that their attack on the community. They're not attacking anybody. Like, they're really not attacking anybody. They're not attacking YouTubers, content creators, or anything like that. They protect themselves when you like take the piss and try to like infringe on their IP, and they have to do that. They have to do that for legal reasons. They have to do that because of IP laws, and it's just the way things are and the way things work in some like creative business. So yeah, I understand it could look like pretty bad, but in the grand scheme of things, they're not interested in you making a little cartoon. They're more interested in the people that are monetizing their IP and making a profit off their IP. You can particularly go onto YouTube and literally make fan content and videos as much as you want, and Games Workshop will not care less. As soon as you monetize that and start making money from that, that is when Games Workshop will get pissed off, because you are essentially infringing upon their IP. Worst case scenario, they send you a cease and desist. Best case scenario, they send you a job offer to go and work on Warhammer Plus. So there. So I think these little people are relatively angry at the boogeyman because it kind of justifies it. And a lot of the times they kind of come out with the same sort of points. You can generally spot a GW hater quite quickly. They will be avid 3D printers. They will make silly comments like 3D printer go brr. They will promote 3D printing. They will talk about things like one-page rules. And they will generally sort of try to promote things that stick it to the man. And it's kind of like, you can do this without giving Games Workshop any money. And generally what I will say to these people is, if you hate Games Workshop that much, why are you giving them the airtime? Why are you giving them any thought? Why are you playing their games? Why are you buying their miniatures? Why are you even buying miniatures that are semblance of their miniatures to play their games? Like, you're still playing their games. So, you know, you're still essentially promoting Games Workshop and helping Games Workshop, even if you think you aren't. Because if you're in your local hobby club playing a game of 40k and you've got yourself a PDF of your codex, you've got your free copy of your rules, all of your armies 3D printed, you're still playing 40k. That brand new person walking into that club who never seen 40k before is now looking at that going, I want to play that game. And you've essentially just helped get a new customer for Games Workshop. They may not do what you do. They may not have a 3D printer. They may just buy the Games Workshop products, and you're essentially helping them. So if you don't like Games Workshop, why not just ignore Games Workshop. Like, I don't like EA. I will try very hard not to give any money whatsoever to EA because I do not like EA. I think they're a shit company. And I vote with my wallet. If I don't like something, I don't give the money over. And I generally think that that's the case. And I sometimes do that with Games Workshop. If they do something stupid or put out a product that I just don't like, I'm not going to buy it. Simple. My wallet has more power than what you think. And yours does the same. So, you know, consumer power is the right thing. So there's those type of people. But let's talk about the content creators, because I think this is where the issue lies. Now, this has kind of been a rise, and we've always had Games Workshop hate, but I think it's been more prevalent since the pandemic, and it's definitely been more prevalent since the nearer to launch of Warhammer Plus. And at that point, we had a lot of drama, and during that drama, a very infamous content creator came to light. And up until that point, she just was not seen. And I would say that other content creators have made sort of content that spewed at a negative angle. Valrak made videos at around that point about this drama and kind of spewed the angle to make it more worse for Games Workshop. Major Kill did the same thing. Now, there is another content creator I was going to focus on, but as far as I'm concerned, I am not showing any pictures or any screenshots or anything for Arch at all, because the guy is a stain on humanity. And yeah, and I'm not giving that dick any airtime at all. Like, Arch can suck my dingleberries as far as I'm concerned. That guy is horrendously bad. And he is one of the ones that literally pumps out such garbage because he has this weird agenda against Games Workshop. And he's a dick, just a pure dick. But the other content creator we're going to talk about is our lovely and our very own from Northern Ireland, Discourse Miniatures. And she's here. So Discourse Miniatures is a channel, if you don't know her. She's got about over 30,000 subscribers, but she kind of started out her life on YouTube covering the Batman miniatures game by Night Models. Now, as you can see, she pumped out quite a lot of videos from this and got some reasonably decent views. Like, her first video got 6.2k views for a battle report. That's pretty gnarly. You know, she did really well. But then, obviously, something happened, and that was the Games Workshop drama. And she jumped in and made this infamous video, Everyone is Mad at Games Workshop. And that pretty much changed the tone of her channel from that day. From that point on, she has literally consistently put out videos to shit-can Games Workshop however she can. Why? And I know why. Now, I have done this. I have made videos that have been a little bit negative towards Games Workshop. I've deliberately clickbaited videos such as Games Workshop killed the Horus Heresy, and the actual video is very promising and positive about how Games Workshop launched 2.0. And I wanted to see what this kind of content would do for my views and stuff. And some of my best performing videos have been ones where I've been negative towards Games Workshop, or perceived to be negative towards Games Workshop. And there's definitely an element in the algorithm that likes that, and I think that's the why. And you can see straight away why Discourse changed track. She went from 1.8k views for talking about basically the Batman game to 38,000 views. That video right there, I could guarantee, got all of her YouTube partner program stuff done, dusted right there and then. Literally, she would have got all of everything that she needed from that one video. And then she continued, and she continued, and continued. So she has continued, and a lot of the time, a lot of her videos, as you can see, are literally slanted towards Games Workshop in a negative way. So Games Workshop's new price rise is indefensible. So I signed the Games Workshop NDA. I find that I haven't watched that one, and I find that very hard to believe because there's nothing in this channel up until that point that Games Workshop would have wanted to promote her on at all. So I might watch that one later and have a giggle. But there's a lot, and it's like it's over. Like Games Workshop should lose the Warhammer IP. Why? Because they're talking about Ravaged Star, and this is where I'm talking about the trend of the Games Workshop haters kind of promoting other things that are not Games Workshop, but kind of copy or rip-offs of Games Workshop. Ravaged Star by Mini Wargaming is a prime example of that kind of trend. It's literally 40k with a few sprinkles of other rules. Their miniatures are literally carbon copy of 40k. Their races, their models, even the story and the lore is essentially 40k with a few twists. And there's nothing original about it. And obviously people like Discourse like that because it shits on Games Workshop. And I would say that this is a good example of this kind of content. Like Games Workshop is doomed. Like they're not. They were far from doomed. And everything is drama. Everything is bad. And I would say the lately ones, you can see the ones I've watched, and I have watched a lot of videos, and this past couple of weeks you can see I've watched quite a few, especially these ones at the top here, and these ones I want to sort of really lean into. So you can kind of get the gist of how this works. So the YouTube content creator will generally make a thumbnail that is quite provocative. I did the same with my Mini Wargaming Goes to War with Games Workshop video. Again, as a prime example of how that works. There was no real text, but it was all in the title and the big mushroom cloud and the two logos. It did what it did, and it's pretty much this year been my most successful video by far. And that's the reason why YouTubers do it. And this is the reason why she does this. So, as a good example of the sort of disingenuous type of things that she comes out with is this video here. I made the worst Warhammer faction and it was a mistake. Now that video has nothing to do with Warhammer. That video is a paid promotion by One Page Rules for Grimdark. And it's basically, the models are from Warlord Games, and it's basically like Warlord Games World War II sci-fi stuff. I think it's Conflict 47 that she uses. And she basically promotes One Page Rules, but there's nothing in there that's Warhammer related. Nothing. But the title will make you think, if you're a GW hater, that this is about Games Workshop, and you will watch that video. Like the other thing, the Warhammer reveals are the biggest scam. There's no scam. None at all. Like, she basically just shits on Games Workshop because of the reveals. Like, there's no scam. Everything, the worst, and you'll notice the trend of the titles. There's the scam is involved. Worse is put into the title. Scandal. These words will get you in to look at this video because you think there's drama, and most of the time there isn't. Now, one of the things that Discourse does do is tries to put herself forward as a consumer advocate. Now, I would say that Games Workshop are not that predatory in their tactics. They're not really. I did laugh at one of her videos where she talked about being in the local Games Workshop store, which is, for both of us, it's the Belfast store just down the road, and I imagine she's somewhere in the greater Belfast area. And she made this comment in the video about how she basically kind of like put one over on the staff members by coming in, and when they come over to her all excited, and she was like, oh, I'm painting like historical war games. Like, the person that she talked to is a friend of mine, and he was basically laughing, basically going, that's not how that went down at all. We had a good conversation about historical war games. We engaged in a pleasant conversation for quite a long time. She was very pleasant to all of the staff. She bought a few paints, she bought a few kits, and then she left. So, but the way she tries to portray the interaction in the store is that she got one over on the staff members. And the same, she kind of did the same thing with Warhammer Fest. Like, she wanted to ask the questions, like, why does Games Workshop not credit their content, their creators. The simple reason is there's a lot of them. The design team and the rules team and everything else are a huge department. So there's a lot of people there. But you can also say the same thing of why do Siege Studios not credit their artists? If you go to the Siege Studios Instagram page and look at all of those models that they're showing off, they don't credit the artist at all. You wouldn't know who painted that model unless that artist, and you were following that artist on Instagram, then shared the same photo and went, I painted this. So you wouldn't know. So, you know, if you're going to throw stones at Games Workshop, hey, let's start winging bricks at Siege Studios. So there's the way that she kind of tries to present things is kind of wrong. And also the very disingenuous information is also wrong. She talked about how Games Workshop always put out FOMO boxes. Games Workshop haven't put out proper FOMO since 4th edition, when you literally bought an army box with a collector's model inside it. Now, the army boxes that you get now are not FOMO. Everything that's in that box is going to be released at a later date. That book, if you call that FOMO, is literally just the collector's edition book with a slightly different cover. And that's kind of a new thing that they've been doing for the past couple of them. The books that are in the launch boxes are not the same covers that come out as the collector's one that you get at launch. So, you know, if that's your thing and that's the reason why you're going to go out and buy that box, go at you. You might get some cards that they won't sell, especially for Age of Sigmar. That doesn't necessarily mean it's FOMO, because the vast majority of people are not interested in those cards. They're interested in the miniatures. And she tried to present this, that this was started at the start of 8th edition with the Sisters of Battle. That is not true. As I shown in my Instagram post when I highlighted this, it was like, this has been as far back as 4th edition with the Dark Angels box, with a little not Azrael model that was in there. The Eldar had one. The Orcs Warhammer Fantasy Battle had a big standard bearer that you could only get in that box. One of the best banner bearers for the Slaves to Darkness, the Chaos Warrior holding the big banner with his faceplate up, was only available in the army box for Warhammer Fantasy Battle at that period of time. I have seen that model go for £200+ plus. It's an amazing miniature which still stands up to the new Age of Sigmar sculpts. And it would look amazing on your army. But can you get hold of it? If you're willing to pay the price, yes. They were proper FOMO boxes. There was an actual fear of missing out, because if you were a collector of the army, you wanted that miniature because you knew you were never going to get it again. Games Workshop don't do that anymore. And one of the biggest things that I will address with her is she presents herself as this advocate for consumer rights, which is complete and utter bullshit. She doesn't care about consumer rights, because the only thing she's caring about is creating the clickbait to get the views. That's it. That's it. And everything she does in the videos is slanted in a negative way. So one of the prime examples is she tries to present herself as the consumer advocate and the consumer advisor. She talked about the Space Marine Combat Patrol box, the new one, the one with the new Terminator Captain, the Terminators, the Flamer Boys, and it's like 95 quid. Now, if she was actually going to be giving information that consumers could use, she would have pointed out that you can buy those very same models in a starter box for £60 odd on an online retailer, say £55 from Element Games. I think I got mine from my local hobby store for about £55. And for that amount of money, I got the Terminator Captain, the Terminators, the Flamey Boys, and a load of Tyranids for £55. If you buy the Combat Patrol box, you're looking at an online retailer for selling it for about £78. But yes, you do get a chaplain, but I could still, a librarian, but I could still buy that starter box, get all of those Tyranids, and then buy the librarian for about 18 quid, and still come in cheaper than what that box is. Now, that's the kind of information somebody who is interested in passing on information for consumers should be passing on to, rather than going, this box is bad, don't buy this box. Like, it's terrible. And that's the thing. A lot of the time she comes out with information that is just wrong. And the reason why is because it gets the views. Those views create revenue. That revenue goes in her pocket. And that is the reason why. And I think in the grand scheme of things, that is the reason why this is a thing. Content creators like Discourse, and there are others. I only use Discourse as an example because while researching this for this video, I ended up watching a lot of her videos, and I watched 4 in a row at one point and gave myself a migraine. My head hurt. I watched these videos so you did not have to. There are other content creators. There are smaller content creators doing the same thing. And I think what the reason why they're doing this is they're seeing content creators like Discourse Miniatures doing it, and they're like, I can jump on that bandwagon. Arch is a dick. Just a complete knob cheese. Do not support Arch. He's a knob. But the reason why that I think Games Workshop's getting so much hate is because of the content creators that are making this type of content. And because that feeds into the narrative for this very small, and I will say it's a small minority, that's extremely vocal. And the vast majority of them are 3D printing enthusiasts. They want to stick it to the man, and they seem to have some form of bugbear against Games Workshop. I'll tell you a little bit of honesty. There was a period of time where I was very, very angry at Games Workshop, and I would troll them hard and their Facebook pages, and I would generally be very negative towards them. I still bought and played their games, but I was very negative towards Games Workshop. And I would say that that put a very kind of crappy light on my hobby as a whole, because I wasn't enjoying it as much. Now, I don't care what Games Workshop does. I don't really care. If Games Workshop wants to do something weird, I don't care. And Games Workshop have had a lot of hate for a variety of reasons. They've had hate for their prices. They've had hate for some of their releases. They've had hate for not having any product to sell because everything is being sold out. They've had hate for putting a coloured person as a Space Marine on the front cover of a book. They've got hate for making female miniatures. They've had hate for all sorts of things. They've even had hate for not making enough female Space Marines, or female Space Marines, never going to happen. I do not agree. For like making not enough female miniatures in general. And it's mental. Like, I think there's a wide range of reason why you will get it. Like Warhammer influencers generally get a lot of hate, and I generally don't support a lot of them. Some of them I just think don't really do enough to justify getting so much. Whereas there's content creators that don't get anything, that put hours and hours and hours of work in, and don't get anything back or any recognition from Games Workshop. So yes, and that's me, but I understand that I'm a small channel and I'm not going to get noticed by Games Workshop. But there are other content creators that are like spend hours on painting videos. Some of them are award-winning painters, and it's obvious you're going to want them to promote your product because they're a really good voice. And then you get really, really big content creators like Valrak, who gets completely overlooked by Games Workshop. And there's reasons why for that as well. But just to sum the video up, like there's no point at giving Games Workshop hate. Games Workshop are never going to change. Games Workshop are always going to do what they feel is best for their company. Yes, they have shareholders. Yes, they're a corporation. Yes, corporations are bad. But let's look at it this way. Games Workshop don't have sweatshops in China making kids make trainers and t-shirts. They're not doing anything that is a little bit suspect like some of the really big corporations. Games Workshops make toy soldiers, and they make games, and they bring a brightness and a little bit of light to what is a pretty shitty time in the world. So if you can get a little bit of enjoyment from a load of plastic, cool. You know, if you're hating on Games Workshop because the prices are too much, there are other companies out there. Warlord Games, there's Mantic, there's Warcradle. There's a lot of gaming companies out there that will happily take your money and give you all of the toys that you want. You don't have to play Games Workshop. You don't have to support Games Workshop. If you do enjoy Games Workshop, then cool. And I think another thing as well that we could do as a community is stop calling this a pile of shame. It's not. There's nothing shameful about having a load of plastic in boxes and sprues lying around. None at all. In fact, rather than calling it a pile of shame, I call it my pile of endless possibilities, because it is a pile of endless possibilities. There's endless projects, and inspiration to be taken from there. There's bits that you could create a really cool kit bash with. So rather than say something negative, say something positive. And in that way, it just brings a whole better environment for everybody. So, yeah. Now, if you're going to come into the comments and call me a GW shill, yes, I am. Thank you very much for confirming what I already know. If you want to slag me off, cool. I don't care. If you want to be negative towards me, brilliant. The more you comment in my channel on this video, guess what? The more the algorithm loves me, and it would be amazing. You can also like the video, even if you dislike the video. I don't care. It all helps the algorithm. But make sure you ring the bell and you drop me a subscription. And if you're feeling a little bit spicy and you want a little bit extra content, then you could check out my members area. I'm currently working on next month's video, which is a 40k related video, and it's going to be pretty cool. So check that out, and hopefully we'll see you in the members area. The Discord channel is currently under maintenance. We're rebuilding the whole thing to fit now that I'm a part of the YouTube partner program. So there'll be a little bit about that soon, and I'm probably going to do a video on that when it's finished. But until then, I will catch you in the next one. See you later, people, and remember, stay positive.